Hey y'all, real quick, we had to do this last week too, but now we're doing it this week, so welcome back to this little insert clip. We are here. Oh, Timothy's here too.
Hi guys.
Hey.
Y'all, people.
Use inclusive language, please, Timothy.
Well, I used to always say y'all, but then you made me feel all self-conscious about it.
Oh, this is my fault?
Yes.
Well, we'll talk about this in another episode. The only reason we're here right now, real quick, is to say that the final Can I Get You episode will be recorded soon, and I need help choosing what stories to tell y'all because I have so many left. There's a link for a survey in the show notes. It'll be at the very top, and I will also post it on all our social media. If you would just go check it out and let me know which of the stories that I listed on there that you want to hear. Don't worry, I didn't list all the stories I could possibly tell. You'd be reading for a while. And obviously you don't read, you listen. So,
and I think that the survey site you used has a text limit. I don't think you would have been able to
I don't know. When I was trying to abbreviate,
I was just trying to be silly.
Okay, you did a good job. I just didn't follow you. We're making this too long. The point is that the survey will be up until Saturday, June 26th, 11:59 p.m. CST. So you've got a little over a week left to fill it out. Please let me know what you want to hear because I want to tell you stories and I can't choose. So thank you for your help. And one more thing before we say goodbye and send you on to Past Us. I guess who you're listening to right now is Past Us too. Oh, it's too much. Anyway, when we recorded this episode, Can I Hire You Part 3, we did not realize that it would be our last one. It's just when we had a planning session the other day, we decided that this one was going to be the last one. We just didn't know when it happened. So, thank you for following Can I Hire You, and we hope you enjoy Part 3.
Yes, and we wish you all the best in all your future endeavors.
Yes, don't call us, we will call you.
We'll keep your resume on file.
Or not. Okay, on with the show. Hey y'all, I'm AJ Reyes.
And I'm Timothy Dailey-Valdes. This is Can I Bother You? The show about people. I don't know. I felt like we needed a tagline, but we don't really have one.
Yeah, I don't know. We can talk about it if you want.
No, I don't want an official one.
Okay, yeah, I don't think we need one.
The most bothersome show on the internet.
That'll get them.
So today, we are bringing back one of our award-winning, often requested miniseries, Can I Hire You? Where we talk all about our jobs, our past employment, our, adventures in the world of working. So we're going to do that today because you've all been clamoring for it. And it's kind of getting to be a little much, but we're going to give the people what they want.
We love the enthusiasm, but you could also just turn it off.
Just dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, or turn it off.
You're at an 11, maybe a 7 would be good. Or maybe according to AJ, a 0.
I'm a big fan of negativity, so I believe in negative numbers.
I don't know. Maybe later in the episode we can discuss how that would be possible in this radio analogy, television analogy. I don't know what we're dialing, but kind of got away from me. To apologize. Oh, this intro is a struggle, just like work.
Oh,
Tying it all together in a neat little package. I'm so good at this.
Are you good at a job? Are there any jobs you're good at?
That felt like a read. Oh, dear. No, the answer is no. I'm bad at all my jobs. Oh, but, I've still got one.
That's what matters.
Something right.
That's what matters the most. There are lots of people who are bad at their jobs and they still consistently have work. Good for you for being one of them.
I felt like that was the implication.
It wasn't, and then it was. It wasn't, and then it was what I flat out said.
Oh, man.
He's massaging his face. Were you laughing too much?
Yeah, I'm smiling too much and my face hurts.
That's why I don't smile. I'm in enough pain.
Oh, goodness. AJ.
Yeah, it's me.
What pain have you brought to the table today? What work pain are you going to vent to us?
I'm going to talk about 2 jobs today, which is not something I've done yet in the series, but they are both costume related. I've mentioned in passing in other episodes that I worked at Zachary Scott's costume shop for just a couple weeks. I was an overhire because they had a ton of costumes that they needed to turn out real fast. And I've also worked at Lucy in Disguise, a costume shop. So I will be discussing both of those and the pain that I feel. Both related to and unrelated to. I can talk about any pain. I'm good. I'm good to go. I'm always ready. My pain is always right there at the surface.
Oh, no.
Ready to boil over.
Well,
Just gotta turn up the heat.
I'm glad you're so in touch with it.
Thanks.
Oh, dear.
Do you want me to talk first? Is that what's happening?
Please.
Okay.
But I'm going to be talking about my jobs where my primary task has been to answer phones.
Cool. And then you, the listener, vote to decide which job you'd rather have. Let America know. America, you decide. But only after we told the stories. Let me get to it. So I think
DJ's gonna win.
it's not about who tells a better story. It's about who has the better job. It took him a minute to react.
Shade.
Anyway, so I have mentioned multiple times, including in the previous episode about friendship, the friendship episode, that Emma is why the oft-mentioned Emma is why I got a few of my jobs, and that is how I got both of these jobs, actually. Chronologically, I worked in the Zachary Scott costume shop. Also, they just call it Zach now, by the way, but like growing up as a child, it was Zachary Scott Theater, and it still feels kind of weird to me to just say Zach. It's just so informal, like Mr. Scott, like, you know? Anyway. Also, when I was a kid, I took a class there. I won a scholarship, and I took a class because I'm so talented. And that was when everyone, still had hope for me. That was when adults still believed in me.
Good Lord. I'm an adult, and I believe in you.
I'm getting a little off track, but you wanted pain.
Sorry.
But anyway, I worked at Zachary Scott first, but I'm going to tell that story second. So, now that we know what order I'm telling the stories in, let me start to tell the stories. First, let me tell you what a story is. I feel like I'm stalling. So, our friend Emma, she worked at Lucy in Disguise, and they were hiring seasonal, and so she told me about it, and she talked me up to them, which I'm sure helped, because Emma's a good worker, and people like her, but also, I think they were hiring almost anyone. Just because, like, at Lucy's, for Halloween, that's the seasonal hires that they hire. When Halloween is coming up, they start hiring people in August, and then September, they start ramping it up. And so I think I got hired the last week of August, first week of September, and so they need to start getting employees in the store so they can train them and have them ready to go in October. So I started there as a seasonal employee, and I started in the vintage department. I've talked a little about Lucy in Disguise before on the show, especially in the Halloween episode, so if you want to hear more stories about what it's like to really be in it, it's a whole thing. Listen to Botherween from last year, from 2020. But today I probably won't talk too much about that aspect of it. Halloween, anyway. So, Lucy in Disguise, costume shop in Austin, in case you don't know, there's lots of color everywhere and the store is like packed with product. I'm not even going to be able to properly describe it. So just imagine a store that, like, the racks are just, like, you can barely pull anything out of the rack because there's so much on it, and if you want to put it back, forget it. You can't. Don't do it. Just give it to an employee and let them figure it out because you can't shove it back in the rack. There's too much. And there's color everywhere. And that's not just because all the products are colorful as hell. It's because there are fabric tiles all over the walls, and none of them are solid colors. They've all got patterns, so there's just lots of color all over the walls. There's a jewelry counter, and it's what it sounds like. It's a counter where they have the jewelry, but including the glass counter where the jewelry resides, there's more jewelry on the walls behind the counter that go up about 5 feet high. It's all earrings and necklaces and just everything you could possibly need to be any sort of character. Tiaras, they got all kinds of crazy shit. Then there's the actual costume department where they have actual costumes, and that's more than half the store, and it's a pretty big store. And then there's a party room where they have all the masks. And I think that's as much of a description as I'm going to give you. It's pretty vague, but, like, I can't. Just imagine the craziest store you possibly can, and that's almost what Lucy's might look like. So I was super excited to work there because it's an Austin staple, and I'd been there plenty when I was in high school, and I very much enjoyed my time there as a customer. So I was excited to work there as an employee. I started in the vintage department, so all the older clothing, and I loved it because it's vintage. I love it, you know? I have a brand, in case you don't know. Being old is definitely my thing. It's not that it was a bad job at all. And it's not even that the people were mean or anything. Everyone was super friendly, and they tried to be welcoming. I just realized I said everyone, and that's not true. There was one person in particular who I was like, I don't like that bitch. Who was she? She was just never very friendly to anyone, really. But I felt especially like she was not friendly to me. But much like my darkness is my whole thing, her darkness was her whole thing too, except that I know when to pull back, you know? That might be hard to believe, but it's true, and I certainly know that I'm not gonna, like, attack a brand new person with it, especially a coworker. Anyway, I'm gonna mention again that I was seasonal and that I knew there was a good chance I would get cut.
Not like by a knife or anything.
I mean, probably not. But they overhire a lot. I think every department gets a different number, not by a lot, but, like, since different departments do a different amount of work in, like, various tasks and require different things, including, like, the people who are already permanent employees. I think 10 or 12 of us were working in vintage by the time Halloween got there. And when I started working there, there were 3 permanent employees, and there was already 1 new seasonal employee, and then the day I got hired, it was me and someone else, my friend Nikki, who I very much love and miss, but she's not listening, so it doesn't matter.
I don't know. That caught me off guard. I don't really know why.
But anyway, the seasonal hire who came in before me and Nikki, I do not remember what her name is. I'm just gonna call her Jane, whatever. She acted like she was the shit, and I was like, you know that you are both also new and also not permanent, and she didn't realize that, I don't think, because when they kept seasonal hires, at the end of the season, usually they keep at least a couple in every department, and they kept me and Nikki, and they didn't keep her, and she was real upset and surprised that they kept us and not her. And I was like, I mean, we both did the job better. I don't, like, you were so busy trying to prove that you knew more than us that we just got more work done. Like, I don't know what your problem is. And she insulted a few of my outfits, because at Lucy's, as a costume store, you're encouraged, you know, wear what you want and get crazy. And we have specific days that are themed where you can all, you know, kind of look alike while still looking real different and having fun. I don't remember any of her actual comments because I didn't care that much, but I was just like, what a bitch. I'm like, if you don't like my outfit, you could just not say anything. And that's also another reason why she got fired. She just had bad taste.
Wait, really? Like, did something
I mean, no one told me that. That was just me. She didn't like my outfits. She has bad taste. I knew that they were going to keep Nikki for sure and that girl was gone because the way the schedule is written, Lucy's is real old school. They don't do computers much at all. And so all the schedules are handwritten. There was like a clock-in thing in the back where you like slip your time card and it clocks you in. Like
a literal like punch card.
The reason they use the term clocking in. Yeah. So our schedule was handwritten and all of it, even employees' names, they weren't typed. They were all handwritten every week. And so the employees' names in every department went in order. The manager of the department was on top, and then it was, I guess, by seniority, basically. You know what? No, I think that there were 4 permanent employees there. And then Jane, and then me and Nikki. And so that's the way we were listed on the schedule. It was the first 4 employees, and then Jane, and then me, and then Nikki, and then all the other seasonal people. And then the week of Halloween, I think, is when I first noticed that it switched, and Jane got put below me, and Nikki got put above me. They switched them. So it was the 4 regulars, Nikki, me, Jane. And I was like, okay, they're going to keep Nikki. And that's okay with me, because I enjoyed it. I liked the job, but I was also like, this isn't for me. I'm having a really good time, but like, this just isn't right for me, and I'll talk more about that later. I think the first week after Halloween, they keep all the seasonal people, or if not all, they keep most of the seasonal people. So they don't just let all the seasonal people go immediately. They keep a lot of us on for all the returning costumes, all the costumes coming back in. So it was still Nikki, me, Jane, and then everyone else. At this point, we know they're only going to keep one of the seasonal people. And I'm like, they're going to keep Nikki, and that's totally fine. She deserves it. I liked her as a person. I loved the way she worked, and I wasn't totally in it, you know? So I was like, okay, cool, great, love that for her. And also, I was still working at Sonic and Barnes & Noble at the time, so I was like, oh, I got plenty of fallback jobs, I'm not worried about it. Then someone who is on the permanent vintage team decided they were going to leave. They didn't want to work there anymore. And so I was like, oh, if they're leaving, that means they're probably going to keep me. And I was right. And they let Jane go. And Jane was not happy about it. And I was like, suck it. I just did not like her. But anyway, I'll pause my story there. Timothy, tell us about your life. Tell us about answering phones.
I don't know how to read that.
Most people would.
So I've had...
Oh my God, am I Jane?
Yeah, I've had 2 jobs where sort of the main duty of my job was to answer phones. So I answered the main phone line at Texas State University, my last year as a grad student. And my current job is very heavy on the phone answering. I'm a receptionist. So those 2 jobs are very similar in some ways and very different in other ways. As I've mentioned before, my current job is a state government job. Well, technically, they're both state government jobs since Texas State is a public university. But my job at Texas State answering phones, I got that because of a friend, similar to you and the oft-mentioned Emma. I got that job because I am friends with the once aforementioned Zebulon, not his real name. I can't even remember what episode I mentioned him in, but anyway.
Oh, I was like, haven't you mentioned him a few times? But it could just be because in real life now, Timothy calls him Zebulon.
Yeah, when I'm talking to AJ about him, I call him Zebulon now. Just, he has sort of a common name, and it's also a member of my family's name. So I do call him Zebulon to AJ, but not in like my life outside of that. Although since that episode was recorded, AJ is kind of the only person I talk to in person. So, oh God. Anyway, it's about to change. It's so close. I mean, I love AJ, obviously.
But I'm not enough for him, and that's okay.
Oh God. Anyway, so yeah, Zebulon worked there. He was a grad school classmate of mine, and he really loved the job. He loved his boss, and I was looking for a job at the time. So I went in, I applied, and I got the job. Our boss was this very sweet English woman from Worcester, home of Worcestershire sauce, which people on the internet seem to have trouble pronouncing. Anyway, she was lovely. So there was this bank is not really the right word, a long rectangular cubicle, 3 stations with a computer and a phone each. So at any given time, depending on, we had different shifts and like depending on how busy things were, blah, blah, blah. There would either be 1 to 3 of us sitting there answering the phones. We'd just talk and hang out. We'd watch Netflix. It was like just a really chill job. The calls were usually pretty easy. Anytime you just call the main number of the university, we were the people you got. Most of the time it was just a matter of transferring a call to where it needed to go. But sometimes we got to help people, and that was nice, except when they were awful to us. One thing about big public universities is that if you need to get anything done in financial aid at all, you're going to have to wait. Their phone lines are almost always busy during the day, between 9 and 5, basically. They're just super busy and you just have to hold. Mm-hmm. And so we would always get students who are like, the deadline is today. I need to talk to someone right now. And I keep getting put on hold. And I'm like, well, all I can do is transfer you back over there. And you'll be in a new spot in line from where you were before. I'm very sorry about that. And I know it's frustrating. And I understand that there's a deadline. And what I always wanted to say was, why didn't you call yesterday or a week ago? Mm-hmm. They always did that. Oh, and parking. That was the other thing. People would be like, my transcript is getting withheld because I haven't paid a parking fine. And it's like, I know that the parking system on campus is awful. It's unjust. It's unfair to poor people. Parking gets so full. Like, I understand that it's a really terrible situation. But at the same time, like, you waited to pay your fine until like the last day of the school year. And now you're upset that you're not going to get your diploma until August or whatever. Like, this is on you. Don't yell at me.
Right.
There were just not a lot. I shouldn't say that. Most callers were very nice. And I don't want to spill all the beans right now. Oh, what a funny phrase. Spill the beans.
Let's talk about it.
But yeah, we would sometimes get calls from parents who would be like, I need to speak to the president of the university immediately. And
Oh my God.
I'm like, okay, I can transfer you to the president's office. I do need to let you know that you probably won't be speaking directly to the president today. And they often hated that. Or they'd be like, I need to speak to the dean. And it would be like, okay, well, this isn't an 80s college sex romp. Like, there are multiple deans at this university. There is the dean of students, who maybe is who you want, but there are also deans of the individual subject areas. And based on what you're telling me right now, I don't even think you need to speak to a dean. I think you probably need to speak to some other department. Oh, and then the parents who would call to try to change their kids' grades.
Oh, God.
Like, I need to speak to this teacher immediately. It was always immediately. Everything needed to happen immediately. My child is failing their class, and that's just not right. Things like that.
Talk to your kid about that.
Right?
Goddamn.
Oh, man. And then we would always get people calling for directions, and I hated that. I can't give verbal directions over the phone to save my life. I just can't. I'm not good at it. And so I always wanted to be like, you know, the building you're looking for is actually on Google Maps. And it'll take you right there. But I wasn't allowed to say that. So one time there was this person driving in from San Antonio and they were running late. I think their kid was a music student and they were giving like their end of year recital or something. And she needed to be there and she was already running late. And so I stayed on the phone with her for like 20 minutes while she drove into town and like was trying to figure out where she needed to park. And I was just like, okay, well, you'll want to make a left here. And she's like, hold on, I'm at a stoplight. I'm like,
oh my God.
Oh, man. But, you know, I had a lot of good lessons in patience. I never raised my voice to anyone. I never showed my frustration. I always made sure to stay very calm and as pleasant as I could.
We are such different people. I mentioned in the last Can I Hire You episode, when I was working at Barnes & Noble, a lot of my job on the book floor was Googling shit for customers. And, like, I hadn't thought about it, but I don't think anyone ever told me, like, you cannot tell a customer to use Google. I don't think anyone ever said that. It was just kind of, like, unspoken that we were going to do it for them.
Right.
But, like, use Google. I understand there are people who don't learn as quickly, especially older people who just don't use technology as much or in the same way. But I'm also, like, it's 2020. If you know how to use your cell phone, even kind of, you can figure out how to open up Google and type into it. You can do it. I believe in you. You can operate a car. You can use Google.
Oh my God. Okay, AJ. I don't know if this is funny enough to say in the podcast. You'll have to tell me.
Okay.
It is job related. In my work Slack the other day, Friday, someone who works with me, she wanted to share in like the Goof Off Slack channel. She wanted to share the video for Rebecca Black's Friday because it was Friday. But the way she went about doing it was she shared a link to search results for this song, for the video, not Google search results. Bing.
Oh my God.
I was just like, you really gonna tell on yourself like that? Oh, I just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And then I had Friday stuck in my head for the rest of the day.
Yeah, that'll happen. Rebecca Black's doing some good stuff now, y'all, by the way.
Oh.
If you haven't checked in on her, she's queer and she's very proud of it. And she's doing some really good work. But anyway, speaking of queer, Lucy in Disguise. So I ended up working there for a little over a year. I started in September of 2014. I left in November 2015. Within that year, I also left Barnes & Noble for the first time. And I stayed with Sonic. I didn't leave Sonic. But I also didn't work it much. I'd work like maybe one shift a month at Sonic, maybe. But so at Lucy's, I stayed there way too long. I really did. And it's because, like, I was already there. Like, I'm already here. I'm doing the job fine enough. It was the best pay I'd ever gotten, for sure, at any job. Lucy's paid me better than anyone else had at that point. I did make more money at Sonic technically, but that's because of tips. And so, like, if I had a bad day with tips or something, then it probably wasn't as good. But that was definitely part of why I stayed, at least. And also, Lucy's hours are like 11 to 7, I think. Midday, don't have to get up too early. So it was all good. Because at Sonic, I worked at 6 in the morning.
Right.
Or at Barnes & Noble, I'd also have to be up at 6 in the morning to get there by 7. But I guess it was just that thing, kind of, where I was sort of comfortable again. But even that's not exactly true, because I wasn't all that comfortable there. There's never a point when I was working at Lucy's where I was like, this is right.
Yeah, it was just like inertia, kind of.
Yeah. And I was meeting interesting people, like a lot of the clients. It's how I met a lot of other actors in town, acting coaches and stuff. I met a lot of interesting people, but it's not like I was like really building relationships with them there. It's like a hello, and now they've seen my face at least. So I really don't know why I stayed there as long as I did. One of the things that I had to do often to sell to people, there were so many like middle-aged women who would come in needing to get dressed for their parties, and like if I didn't act more feminine or more flamboyant or bigger, it was harder for them to like accept what I was telling them, basically. Like if I was just like, oh yeah, that looks really good on you, do you feel good in it, it looks great, and they'd be like, are you sure? And I'm like, I just told you that it did. Like, the color looks great on you, the fit is so good, and it's perfect, it's really what you were describing, you feel happy in it. And they're like, well, I mean, I guess it does fit okay, but like, if I was like, oh my god, girl, yes, that looks so good. Oh my god, your boobs look fantastic in that. Oh my god. They're like, really? You think? Oh my god, thank you. Okay. Well, do I need a skirt then? Girl, yes, you need a skirt. Oh my god. You go look at the heels first, though. I'll go grab a skirt for you. If I don't just get like real big with it, it's like they weren't listening. And I'm like, what is wrong with all you women? It was the same all the time. So many middle-aged white blonde women. All the time. Always. I don't know what it was. And if they weren't blonde, it's because their hair was some crazy eccentric color, because she's kooky. I'm not trying to judge people, but I mean, there are definitely types of people in the world, and you know who I'm talking about, you know? If she's happy, that's wonderful, but like, don't force your need for stereotypes on me, girl. I'm just trying to work. I'm just a working girl in the city.
Trying to make it in this go-go world of the 90s.
I had a heterosexual male friend who also did that, too, because he was like, yeah, it's true, like, they're not listening. You just gotta do it. And I'm like, I mean, I don't have to do it. I could not work here.
I know exactly, well, I shouldn't say exactly, because obviously I haven't worked a job like that. But I've definitely, as a fellow queer mo, I have definitely been in situations where I felt like the best way to handle this situation is going to be to like camp it up. I think that's a more common thing that we have to deal with, that people who are not in the community or in our specific part of the community don't necessarily know about.
The only time I can think of when I do it by choice right now is if I'm complimenting a stranger, especially a woman. I don't want to make her feel uncomfortable, but I want her to know that like she made a good choice with this outfit or something, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll be like, girl, that top is so fucking cute.
Yeah, like sometimes you have to do it to keep from being like a creepy man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because I'm like, I need you to know that I have a compliment for you, but I also don't want you to think I'm trying to get into their pants. Because I mean, if I were, it's not for the reason you think. Anyway, that was one of the things that bothered me a lot, because it just came up so often. I didn't feel like the job was right for me in general. And then also, the people who worked there, like I said, except for the one person that I specified earlier. Oh, 2 people, I guess, because it was one permanent employee and then a seasonal employee. But other than those 2 people, everyone else was super friendly and so funny and very nice and helpful. And all the managers, well, all the department managers were very nice and friendly and helpful and totally understanding of when I fucked up, which only happened like twice, I think. One time I tried to replace the receipt paper in the register, and for some reason they have 2 different kinds of receipt paper, so like the rolls look almost identical. I think the only way to tell the difference was that the like center that all the paper is wrapped around, one of them is a little smaller than the other, and that's how you tell the difference. And I don't remember what paper was for what. Well, I mean, one of them was specifically for the registers and the other one was for something else. I don't know. But anyway, so I put the wrong one in there and it caused a paper jam in one of the registers. And I was like, this is why I shouldn't be allowed to do things. Sorry about it. This is why you shouldn't have hired me. I don't know what you were thinking. But anyway, so like the people were always friendly. I also just didn't feel like I fit in with them either. they hung out all the time outside of work, it seemed like. And they were always going out, like, downtown and to bars. And I'm like, that's not really my thing. On occasion, maybe I'll go, but, like, I don't drink. So the only thing there for me is hanging out with my friends, and I can do that in a quieter place. Anyway, so as great as the people were, I didn't really feel like I fit in with them either. It was really weird, because I'm like, I'm not unwelcome here. I'm not at all unwelcome, and I still don't feel right here. And then I kept going there anyway for over a year. But so then my second Halloween, I've mentioned before on the podcast, at Lucy's, people count time in Halloween. So, like, how long have you been here? 4 Halloweens. I was only there 2 Halloweens. On my second Halloween day, and I think the 2, maybe 3 days before that, I was so sick. I don't know if it was like the flu or what, but I feel like I was dying, which granted, I feel that way a lot anyway. But like, I really was like, this is it. I can't breathe. Like, my head is pounding. I have a fever of like 105. I'm not gonna wake up tomorrow.
You had a fever of 105?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not there. That was years ago.
I was going to say, I think that is like, you need to go to a hospital immediately.
Timothy focuses too much on what I say. I hope that you guys aren't listening because, I mean, closely. I hope you're like listening. We're making money off the ads. Please keep playing. I'm only here for the money.
Yeah, we need that 2 cents so badly.
Some of us do, Timothy, okay? There's a poverty problem in America, but that's a different episode. So anyway, I was like deathly ill on Halloween, but like missing Halloween on Lucy's is, you know, a grave sin. It is the day. It is like the day. There are multiple days throughout the year in which Lucy's gets a lot of business, but Halloween is the day, so you don't miss it. But I was sick, and Halloween was actually the first day that I started to feel a little better. But I was like, no, I'm still sick. I'm not going to go in. So I also missed the big Lucy's Halloween party, which is also sad because Halloween night when the store closes, even though it closes at midnight, it was either 11 or midnight. And then we'd have a big Halloween party in the alley behind the store, which is less sketchy than it sounds. I missed the Halloween party because I'm like, I'm sick. I'm not going to go to the Halloween party. Because I think a couple of the employees were like, are you coming to the party? And I'm like, no, I couldn't go to work. I'm not going to go to the party.
Oh my God. You had to be like your own parent in that situation.
Right?
Like, you know, with a school kid if they're sick. Like, but can I go to the slumber party after school? Or like whatever. And I'm like, no, if you're not well enough to go to school, not well enough to go to the party.
I can't tell you how many times senior year, when I was the lead in the musical, I can't tell you how many times that year I did not go to school, or I missed like the first half of school and then I'd go to rehearsal or something. All the time. There were people in the cast who were like judging me pretty hard, and I'm like, what? You don't know me. Anyway, I was not at Lucy's those important days, and I think I was there for the week after Halloween when all the returns are coming in. We're doing all that paperwork and just, you know, trying to clean up the mess that happened from Halloween. A week later, the store manager, I was trying to think of a fake name for him. The store manager, Bernie, calls me into the office. I used to take my lunch breaks early at Lucy's. I'd get there at 10:30, and then I'd take my lunch break at like 12:30 or 1 or something. Maybe even earlier. No, probably not earlier. Not the point. Anyway. So I'd take my lunch break early in the day, just to get out of the way. And also, I usually skip breakfast. So one day, like, I've just clocked back in, and I've just gotten back to the jewelry counter, because at that point I'm working in the jewelry department. And he calls me into his office, and he's like, we're giving you, I think it was a 2-week suspension, because I missed Halloween. And I think also because I didn't have a doctor's note. And I'm like, I can't afford to go to a doctor. I'm glad I didn't die, because I really couldn't have afforded the hospital. Anyway, he suspended me. I wasn't even really angry about it then, but I was like, you know this is wrong, right? Like, I was sick. Like, I was at home very, very sick, and now you're punishing me for being sick and for not being able to go to a doctor because you don't pay me enough and you don't give me insurance? Like, what do you want from me? I think I had to sign a little paper that said that, like, he had talked to me and that I was, being kicked out.
Suspended.
Thank you. Suspended. There we go. And I remember grabbing my stuff and telling my friend Claire, who was also working in jewelry, I was like, yeah, he suspended me, so I'm out. Deuces. And as I'm, like, walking out the back door, I'm calling Sonic on my phone, and I'm like, hey, I'm free for the next 2 weeks. Sonic was always happy to take me. Even if I wasn't happy to be there, at least I knew I wouldn't be without money, because I can't not have income for 2 weeks. I already missed a few important days of work.
Right, I didn't even think about it that way, but, like, they're punishing you for missing work by making you miss more work.
So, yeah, I'm, like, real angry about it. Or at the time. I just thought it was so stupid.
It is stupid.
Yeah, and also because Lucy in Disguise is a small store. It's not even like a big corporate chain or anything, which I would definitely expect it from a big corporate chain. Yeah. The other managers made it clear to me that they thought it was wrong, and they apologized profusely. Anyway, so yeah, I went back to Sonic the next day, I'm pretty sure. And I think while I was there that day, I was like, hey, do y'all want me back? I'll come back full time. It's nothing to me. I need money, and Lucy's was never really right for me anyway. And now he's punishing me for being sick when they wouldn't even help me when I was. So I'm like, yeah, I'm done there for sure. I thought about it at the time, and I was like, should I put in my 2 weeks while I'm on suspension? Does that count? But I waited to be more dramatic. I waited until I came back. And so the morning that I came back, I enter, all black, cape flowing, big hair. I have a present for the child. And I was like, it's my 2 weeks. That was my present. I remember the manager that I gave it to, the manager who was working that morning, she seemed so like sad and resigned. She was like, I get it. Like, I mean, I understand why you're doing it. Okay, yeah, sure. And then they kept me the full 2 weeks, which surprised me because that's not a typical thing. But I finished my 2 weeks there and I never looked back.
When I worked at HEB, I had all this vacation time saved up because I didn't know that I was earning it. And so I want to say I took off like a month because I knew I was quitting, so I needed to use my vacation time. And so I put in my 2 weeks while I was still on vacation. And I probably shouldn't have done that, but they kept me. They kept me on the payroll. They continued to let me have my vacation. I didn't even end up taking all of my vacation, and they paid me for the stuff I hadn't taken. Y'all, HEB is like a really solid company. But they were also like, oh, are you sure? Like, we know you're moving for grad school, but like, are you sure? But they finally let me go.
He even lived right behind an HEB in grad school.
Yeah, they were like, are you sure you don't want to transfer? And then like, if you move back to Austin, you can come back here. And I think I even said something like, well, I might work at HEB again, but I'll just reapply. And they said something to me like, oh, I don't know. It's pretty competitive down there in San Marcos. Like, there's no guarantee you'll get your job back or you'll get another job at HEB or whatever. And I was just kind of like, I'll take my chances.
Right.
And I never worked there again.
You want to tell us more about the phones?
I don't know. I felt like a puppy or something. You want to tell us more about the phones?
Do you?
The calls nowadays that I get, that they're the weirdest to deal with. Oh, and I love my job. I haven't made that clear, but I really enjoy my job. But the weirdest calls I have to take now are from regular everyday citizens who don't really have a reason to call us, but they think we're someone else, basically. And I had to explain to this woman the other day that Trump is no longer president. Not because she likes Trump.
Well, no, but like, what? How did that go? What happened?
Well, okay, I'm probably making it sound like a bigger deal than it is, but she was upset by something that's currently happening in Texas politics, and she was saying something about some policy that Trump is pushing. So I had to explain to her, well, Trump is no longer president. And she said she knew, but it did not sound like she knew. So she was a little confused. But anyway, do go on, AJ.
Well, I mean, do you want to tell more of a story than that?
One of the people I work with, for some reason, at some point, and she has said that she doesn't know how this happened, which I'm like, you had to put this on some form somewhere or something. But we get all of the calls that her daughter's school tries to make to her. Like, they don't have her cell phone number, her home phone number or anything. They just have our number somehow. And so we not constantly, but we'll get calls like if her daughter's out for a doctor's appointment or something, we'll get a call saying she wasn't at school for some period. Like an automated call, We were getting snow day calls for her daughter's school. We got a call the other day from one of her daughter's teachers who did not know how to respond to my questions, because part of our job is to screen calls for the other people who work with us. And so we need to get information about the call. Like, sometimes people will call us and just be like, yes, John Smith, please. I can't just be like, oh, right away, sir. Like, no. We don't do that at
Yeah.
our job.
Right.
I know some places are more like that. Like when I worked at Texas State, if somebody said that and the person they were asking for had a number in the public directory, I would just transfer them. But it's not like that at this job. So when this teacher asked for her, I had to be like, okay, and may I ask who's calling? And she was like, Mrs. Wilson or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know who you are, lady.
Uh-huh.
I was like, okay, and may I ask what the call's regarding? And she's like, school. And I was just like, what? Who are you, lady?
Right?
Anyway, I finally got there with her. But yeah. Oh, boy.
Who are you? Who even are you?
I would never say anything like that at all. But
We are such different people.
I'm sorry, AJ, you had a story.
Before we go away, I'll tell you about Zach. Since it was only 2 weeks, it's not a very long story. But when I worked at Zach Scott, this is before I worked at Barnes & Noble. Emma was working at Barnes & Noble already, and there was someone else who was working there also who was going to be working in the costume department at Zach. And so Emma had that person recommend me for the job. And so I was there, and it was just 2 weeks, and it happened so fast, and I liked it a lot also, even though I was also like, is this for me? And honestly, I think it was more for me than Lucy's was. I was mostly just doing hand sewing, mostly because I just didn't feel like trying to deal with their machines. Well, they had plenty of machines, obviously. Oh, Zach Scott Theater is an established theater in Austin. It's certainly one of the bigger ones, if not the biggest one. But anyway, so I was really happy to be working in their costume department. And at the end of it, the head of the costume department, she was very friendly the whole time. She only talked to me like I was incompetent once. And that's because I was being incompetent. But
I don't believe you.
that's why I'm not going to tell the story. We'll just leave the illusion of my perfection alive. When it was over, she emailed me and offered me an internship, or asked if I'd like be interested in the internship they had. And I thought about it for like a day, I think. And at the time, I was like, well, it'd be fun. I'm sure I'd learn a lot. But like, I'm an actor, and I don't want to get... It's also the same reason I don't stage manage. It's because I don't want to like get trapped in that. I don't want to be trapped as a costumer just doing this. I'm worried that I'll get too good at this, and I'll be too reliable at this, and people will want to see me there, and they won't put me on stage. And so in the end, I decided not to do it. But now present day AJ is kind of like, you should have just done it anyway. Like, if I felt like I was getting too pigeonholed, I could have just stopped doing it then. But I decided it was going to happen before it happened, you know? And so I just deprived myself of an opportunity to learn more about something that I am interested in and meet more people in the area that I'm interested in general. Because I wouldn't have been just dealing with the costume department, you know? I was just holding myself back, and I do that so fucking often. That's essentially what I did for a year at Lucy's. Like, I wasted a year there. Oh, well, waste is not appropriate, I don't think. But I also didn't need to spend a year there. I could have left and gone to do something else, but I didn't. Because I was like, I don't know, it's like interesting enough. And then with the Zach thing, I was like, I don't know, they're gonna leave me there. And I'm like, who's they? First of all, present day, past AJ, present day AJ wants to know, who is this they that is pigeonholing you? You don't even know anyone yet. Maybe get to know some people before you decide that they're going to treat you this way. It was just me holding me back. And I'm like, oh, young AJ, you're gonna do that for the rest of your life. You can skip it this once, you know? The good news is that I still catch myself holding myself back every day. I look forward to learning the same lessons over and over again.
Oh my god. Oh, that's too real.
I think that we're cursed to live like that forever. Constantly holding ourselves back. Always wanting it all, but giving ourselves nothing. I say some of the most honest and profound things on this podcast. I didn't even know I thought that. But I do, and it's correct. Wow.
Oh, well.
In this episode, we did not get any jobs, but I did get the work done.
I don't even know anymore.
We can wrap up.
If you, listener, would like to connect with us on social media, we are at Can I Bother You on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Ko-fi, where you are more than welcome to donate to us monetarily if you are comfortable doing so. If you are able to do so, we would love that so much.
But if not, it's fine, because we get 2 cents for every time you listen to an ad. That was this episode, right?
Yes.
Okay, I hope so.
I don't know. I don't know anymore.
I can't keep up. Go on, whatever.
Also, if you think that we are employable as advice givers, you can ask us whatever the heck you want in our social DMs or via email at botherus@canibotheryou.com. If you're in the mood to get in touch with me on social media, I am at TCJDV on Twitter and Facebook, and at Tomatio88 on Instagram. AJ, where can they find you?
You can find me on YouTube at AJ Reyes F13. Check out my videos if you would like. I would like that. And you can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at AJ Reyes F13. And I would never threaten our listeners. So leave us a review. And leave us 5 stars.
If we've earned 5 stars.
Oh, yes. If we have not earned 5 stars, by all means, speak your truth. And then stop listening, because why would you listen to a show that doesn't,
That isn't perfect.
well, I mean, that isn't 5-star worthy. I mean, do you think 5 stars means that it has to be the perfect podcast?
No, but
Well,
I mean,
then-
it's like an A+.
Well, I mean, maybe I'm just a little too generous with art, but, if I wouldn't give it 5 stars, I probably wouldn't listen to it again. But I'm also not, super stingy with my stars, you know? So, anyway, the point is, listener, you do whatever is right for you, but if you don't think we're 5-star worthy, I don't know why you'd waste your time rating. And again, in the reviews, please let us know what you think, how we're doing, if I lay the negativity on too thick, if Timothy points out my flaws too often, let us know in a review.
You don't have flaws.
And also, please subscribe and follow so you'll know when the next Hot Mess episode comes out. Oh, no, we did think about calling this podcast Hot Mess, didn't we? I was going to say we should have. Anyway, we didn't. It's too late now.
It's too late now.
It's also too late at night now, so we're going to go away.
We're fired.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye.